Welcome back to my channel. So I recently watched a video of Virgil Abloh talking about branding, and I was curious to see maybe if I'd be able to incorporate this in some of my art. So his advice for branding, would it apply to my art practice? And so he's an influential American designer. And if you haven't heard of him, you should look him up. He's an artist, he's an entrepreneur, and he kind of gained recognition with his work with high fashion and streetwear. And he has like a unique approach to design and culture. So give him a look up if you haven't heard of him. But he did an interview before he passed away, and his advice is really, I don't know, kind of good for artists as well, not just entrepreneurs or designers, but he gave it specifically for people who wanted to build a brand. So, anyway, his first one that I want to sort of investigate with you guys is um, his insight about having too many ideas, mudding up your vision or your message. And I think that's so true. I think that's especially true when we first get started and we're just drawing whatever we like, whatever we see, just to get better at the skill of art making. But eventually, everybody sort of evolves into what are they trying to say? Why is it they're attracted to drawing certain things? And what voice do they have or message do they have to the world? And usually, when you think about it, that's branding. So, how I think this applies to art is pretty significant. I think we all eventually end up there, but I don't think we think of it in terms of entrepreneurial or branding specifically. I know I didn't, and until recently. But I don't want it to be so much like, oh, I'm creating a business more than I'm creating art. Does that make sense? Because I feel like if you do too much of that, it ends up dictating your art in a way that's not really your voice. It's whatever is trending. But if your ideas are your own voice and you want to sort of make it your style, then perhaps style is branding. And in that way, I think this idea or this insight of having too many ideas muddies up your message. So, but I as a lifelong creative, I'm always thinking of new ideas, and often new ideas before I even finish the first idea. So this has been difficult for me, um, but I'm getting better at it. I'm trying not to be too distracted and try to keep a focus on one thing at a time. Um, but you might be like me and you might have loads of project ideas um and I thought for a while, I thought, oh, I thrive in chaos. I'm going to be okay just doing a bunch of different stuff. But I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. I do think that I'm getting better at just having that focus on the one thing and locking in one thing at a time. But it can be difficult, and I'm finding that I do better with one project that takes my focus rather than splitting my attention. And the key for me really is that the project needs to be small, and it needs to be like a small series of paintings. Um, I've been painting for several years, and I can tell that I circle around to the same ideas eventually. So I take my inspirations and I dive into them, and then I sort of lose steam for that and then end up circling back around and adding to it later, but it comes in like cycles or seasons. And I don't mind that so much because I come back to it fresh. For instance, I'm starting these moth paintings, and after working on butterfly images for some pattern designs, I wanted to go back to sort of the beautiful designs of, like, you know, butterflies and moths, and they're just so pretty, and their colors are so vibrant and pretty that I always end up wanting to go back to them. So it ends up being that I come back to it, but it's kind of different, and it's the same but it's different. And it gives me a fresh perspective. And so it's like a new project, but it's still, you know, on the back of an old project, if that makes sense. So I do think that branding, the idea of branding and entrepreneurial sort of ideas about a message or a style, or just an idea for your brand in general, can be very helpful to artists. But it doesn't have to be the way that you think of in business terms. It can be in the way that you think of in just your voice. So I do feel like I'm refining that slowly, and it's taken some time. It really is just challenging. So, um, for now, these moths have my full attention, and I have a few more that I want to paint. I think like, of course, the Luna moth is going to be a nice one to do, but I definitely love what I'm doing right now. And they just offer, like moths and butterflies, they offer so much variety in color and in shape. And there's just so much to look at and choose from and play around with. So it really just kind of makes me think of how God is really the master artist, like I can only copy his genius and celebrate it with my work. So it just makes me feel like I don't really have to do too much as far as, thinking huge conceptual thoughts at the moment with raising 5 kids. I can just copy the genius of God and really celebrate his work with that. Although I did sort of find out that, how do I connect my art with my faith? And I found out that, like, what the symbolism for moths really are in the Bible is speaking to us about, like, how the moths will eat up all your garments and all your possessions. Like, it really doesn't matter, like, all of the things that you like worry about having and the materials that we own, like, all of that's passing. So in the way, moths represent that, and I think that's a beautiful way of seeing why I'm attracted to doing these pieces, not just because, they're superficially pretty, but like what the meaning behind moths really are, and sort of pointing to scripture, maybe adding like what book of the Bible and chapter and verse and stuff, just kind of hiding it in the moth. But yeah, we'll see. So for now, that's all I got for you. I just wanted to share my thoughts on this whole idea of branding and um, Virgil's message and sort of advice and insights about that. I have a few more of his sort of tidbits of advice. I'll do those in other videos, but well, that's all I've got for you guys today anyway. But I will do my best to keep up these videos and as best I can with raising 5 kids and a busy schedule. But it's been fun, and I hope you guys like and subscribe.